Hi everyone, this is Flavius Fire returning with a new video on how to use your Nintendo Switch Pro controller with your PC. So I'm going to get started by demonstrating a couple ways that the controller works with the PC out of the box. No extra configuration required. So I'm going to start by connecting my controller. You can do this via Bluetooth or just plugging it in using the included USB cord you should have got with the controller. I'm using an official Pro controller, so that's what I have. You might be using like a third-party Switch controller that doesn't even support wireless. In that case, you have to just plug it into the computer. I'm not going to demonstrate how to connect it via Bluetooth in this video. It's very easy, but I don't use it via Bluetooth. I don't specifically recommend it, because with via a wire you get more stable connection, a lower latency connection, and it's much simpler in comparison to going into your Bluetooth settings, pairing everything, and then having to redo all that when you connect it back to the Switch later. Plugging in with the wire is just so much easier. So I'm going to do that. And my controller is now connected to the PC, and I'll start by demonstrating. The first place the Nintendo Switch Pro controller is pretty much always going to be functioning properly is in Steam. If I were to hop in here in the big picture mode is Steam's like controller support overlay if you're running on a TV or whatever. But yeah, right now I'm using the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. It works great. I'm gonna hop in the controller settings real quick just to show off these settings here. As long as this button is checked, Pro controller should work with Steam. If that isn't checked, it's not gonna work. So check that before you start getting concerned that the Pro controller isn't working. I would enable this as well. I'm not really sure if it applies, but it doesn't hurt. And then if you're this, you want to think about if you want to use. So by default, this is how the buttons will look. This is how they are in the controller. On an Xbox controller, you're normally going to have BY and this be X, and this be B and this be A. I'm not really sure why they show it different here in the image. But anyway, if I were to uncheck this, it will now use B like A and A like B, and you may want to do that for some games because the game may not detect it otherwise. But if you want to use the buttons as they are on the controller, enable this. It's a simple way of doing it. I'm going to demonstrate really quick, hopping into Horizon Zero Dawn. I have a custom controller configuration set up, although all the configurations I made in the game, I didn't have to go into Steam and do a whole ton except for enabling gyroscope options. I'm not going to cover how to do that in the video. I'm just showing how to connect and where it works, basically. Feel free to toy around with that yourself. Yeah, as you can see, I've now in Horizon Zero Dawn, and the game is running great. Controller support feels great. I even have this gyroscope set up where I can aim more precisely. I have the controls set up like Zelda Breath of the Wild because I played that game. I've played a lot of hours of that game. And yeah, there's no audio right now because I have it set up for my computer speakers. I'm recording this with a headset on. Anyway, just to demonstrate that works. I'll hop out of the game now. Yeah, so speaking of Breath of the Wild, the next place your controller is definitely going to be supported is in probably a handful of emulators. I know it's supported out of the box with software like Cemu. If I were to hop into here just to demonstrate, input settings, Nintendo Switch Pro controller is what it's currently detected as connected. Start at Breath of the Wild real quick. I do own this game, by the way. I haven't pirated this. Don't come after me saying I'm doing illegal stuff here. Emulation is not illegal, just piracy. But yeah, now that I'm in the game, as you can see, the controller is working just as it would on the Nintendo Switch or Wii U. And yeah, it's running pretty great. Input feels very smooth. And yeah, so that's another place where I know it's definitely supported. No No extra setup attached outside of the programs themselves. But now the last place where you're probably going to find game support is sometimes games just have support for the Pro Controller just built in, such as Celeste, which is a fantastic game, by the way. I fully recommend it. As you can see, I haven't started up any extra programs. It already detects my controller. I haven't played this game in ages, but yeah, supported right out of the box. Very convenient. But no, the vast majority of games not going to support it right out of the box. And I don't know about you, but I have some games on Steam, but I also own a lot of games on the Epic Games Store, like Celeste, Kenna Bridge of Spirits, and this crap ton of games that they've just given away for free. You want to use your controller with all of these too, right? So, but most of them aren't going to support it. So what do you do about that? Well, that's where this very convenient tool called BetterJoy comes in. Now, BetterJoy is actually originally supported to bring support for Nintendo Switch Pro Controller to Cemu, the emulator I was just showing, but as you can see, it now works out of the box in Cemu, so this tool isn't really useful there anymore. What this tool does provide is system-wide generic X-input support, which basically does what Steam does with the controller, but for the entire computer. So, long story short, BetterJoy allows your computer to look at the Pro Controller like it would an Xbox controller, and you can use it anywhere an Xbox controller would work, including games in the Microsoft Store, Epic Games Store, Origin Launcher, probably the Blizzard Launcher. I haven't specifically tested it there, but yeah, what you're going to want to do is come here from releases and go to here and just download whatever the latest zip file is. Once it's ready to download, click save. Your computer might, save it automatically to the downloads folder, wherever you have it saved. You're going to want to find the zip file and extract all into a new folder, preferably. That's what I do. Let that extract. Now this is the folder with everything in it. You can erase the zip now. Now I'm gonna stick this folder in my saved games folder because that's just where I like to keep all this stuff, but you can have it anywhere. Right, now you're gonna want to hop into here, and this is where things start to look as a little scary, but it's really not that complicated. The important things you want to worry about are this and this. Everything else in here, it's not a huge deal. What you're gonna want to do is hop into drivers, and here's the README. It'll tell you to run the driver. This other folder, HD Guardian, which is right here. I haven't needed to use that for my setup. I don't know what case you would. I'm just gonna ignore it for this video because it doesn't really make a difference, at least for my computer. Anyway, I'm running a 64-bit version of Windows, so I'm going to use the 64-bit version. If you're running a 32-bit, use the one that says x86. I'm going to use x64. So run this folder, run this file. You need to accept the agreement and hit install. Allow administrative privileges, and yeah, it's really fast. Hit finish. And right now your drivers are installed. Now before you start this program, what you're going to want to do is close Steam completely. So if you have it running here in the taskbar, hit exit. If Steam is running, it'll conflict with this program. So if you're running a game in Steam, just use Steam, do not have this open. If you're running anything outside of Steam, close Steam completely and start this. And you can see the controller is detected. If you want to go in here and map any of this, you can. I haven't needed to use any of it. Alright, it says it's ready to go, and just to briefly test, we're going to try Minecraft, because this is the Windows 10 version, so it installs from the Windows Store. There's previously no way to make a Pro controller work with this program. Let it boot, and look at that. Now, your A button is going to be treated like B, B is going to be treated like A, X and Y are going to be similarly swapped. But yeah, it's running pretty great, if I may say so myself. Really no latency. Everything is working as it should. That's Minecraft. Let's briefly demonstrate in a different Fortnite, for instance. The library, I'm gonna try Fortnite. As you can see, the game has detected it like as if it were an Xbox controller. Hop into a game real quick. Honestly, I used to play so much Fortnite with this specific controller on my Switch. Ever since upgrading to an actual decent gaming PC. You can run it at 3 or 4 times the frame rate, much better visuals. As you can see, it's running very smoothly. This feels so nice, man. I love using this controller for Fortnite. Just the see, when you're using like a normal gamepad, a normal Xbox controller or whatever, all your triggers are full-size triggers and everything. On the Switch Pro controller, your trigger buttons aren't triggers, they're just buttons, and so much easier to press, so much easier to just click really fast. At least in my opinion, they're much smoother to use than Xbox controllers. The joysticks are so much more sensitive and easy to move. It's a really nice setup, man, I won't lie. And I highly recommend using Pro Controller in general. I mean, I have a pretty basic Xbox controller. It works fine with the computer. It's supported everywhere. With this new tool, I'm probably just going to use my Pro controller as my go-to controller for playing on anything on my PC. I just love the controller so much better. Every aspect of it, feels like a much nicer experience. An issue I have found with this tool, BetterJoy, is sometimes every so often the vibration, the rumble output is sometimes really off. Like it'll vibrate super hard, like super extra hard when it really shouldn't. But it's intermittent, and yeah, it's not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things when everything else just works so smoothly. Briefly, I'm going to talk about some issues I've ran into using this program. So sometimes what can happen is if you start the program without the controller connected and plug it in, sometimes it works perfectly. If it can't detect the controller, maybe plug it in, plug it back in, unplug it, plug it back in again. Sometimes you may need to actually press a button on the controller before it detects it's connected. Whenever it's working, it'll be green here. In any case, I think that's going to leave it for the video. Thank you so much for watching.